Hello, and welcome to a special bonus edition of Sundays in Song. This Sunday at 4:30, we open our music series with a special festival evensong dedicated to Saint Hildegard von Bingen. Hildegard was a poet, theologian, mystic, scientist, and the first recorded composer in the Western canon. We'll celebrate her history and her legacy with music of her own, as well as a pre-service recital given by Outcalls, a local indie pop rock opera band, who will perform music of Hildegard as well as by Libby Larson and music of their own composition. Following is the service of Evensong, which features the world premiere of the setting of the Evening Canticles by our 2017-2018 composer-in-residence, Fei Chow. We also feature the North American premiere of two movements from Dusk Songs by British composer Kerry Andrew. Kerry Andrew dropped by digitally to tell us a little bit about the music that we'll be singing and listening to this Sunday.
Hello everybody, my name is Kerry Andrew and I'm a composer and the composer of Dusk Songs, and I'm just here to tell you a little bit about me and my work. Dusk Songs is a large-scale choral work that I was commissioned to write in 2005 by a really lovely choir based in York, which is where I studied, York in the north of England, called the Ebor Singers, and they wanted me to write a Compline Mass, which is a late night candlelit mass, which offers lots of really lovely opportunities because there are about 12 different parts to it. There are responses, prayers, hymns, anthems, and other things, and it was lovely because it allowed slightly different approaches for each movement. I called it Dusk Songs just because of thinking about the atmosphere of a late night candlelit mass. And one of the things I was really interested in thinking about was the relationship between Latin versions of the sacred text and English versions, and playing with the relationship between those two. I guess I was thinking about the fact that when the Bible and religious texts were only in Latin, it allowed the bishops and the elders to have quite a lot of control over the people, and I was thinking about the idea of the English texts emerging from the Latin, a sort of an extra sense of illumination, I suppose. The piece was premiered in York Minster, which is a very beautiful large cathedral in York. I actually don't know when it dates from, but there's been a sacred building on that site for at least 1,000 years, and it was premiered in Chapter House, which is not the main body of the cathedral, but a small wing, which is a circular building. And it was really nice as I was writing, knowing that it was going to be performed in that space. Because it's so atmospheric being in the round like that. I had the sopranos processing in, holding candles for the very first movement, and we played with various solo singers appearing on balconies, and just played with the space quite a lot. And I know that doesn't happen each time with performances of parts of this piece, but it was a very special first candlelit performance. I'm really interested in, as a composer, trying to think about the balance between when something should be really strictly notated, or when you should write something more freely and give it to the performers and see what they do with it. I'm a performer myself. I sing a lot and workshop a lot of new music, new pieces. And often we say to composers, I sing with a trio called Juice Vocal Ensemble, and we say, this is very difficult. And what you could do is write it in an easier way, put it in a little box and say, improvise on this in this style, and create essentially the same effect, but with a lot more freedom and agency to the performers. It's not always the right approach, and there's nothing wrong with very strictly notating something if that's what you want to do. And I do that a lot too, but I really enjoy moments in a lot of my music, including several parts of Dusk Songs. I enjoy having bits of material in a box and asking singers to sing that material individually and overlap overlapping with the other singers around them to create something textural and floaty. And I just like that sense of sort of dispersion and a sort of suspension of time, I suppose. And that's often written in combination with something that's more metric, more notated. Yeah, and there are definitely moments of that in Dusk songs. I'm really into folk songs and folk stories. I didn't grow up with folk songs, but I discovered them when I was at university, and have ended up doing a lot with traditional material and singing that under the name You Are Wolf. And that was probably before Dusk songs, but it's certainly folk songs have sort of really infused a lot of my material since. I'm always writing in modes. I can't help it. I don't think in major and minor scales, or often thinking atonally, of course. But if it's something that's a bit more tonal, I'm always writing in a sort of common folk mode. They seem to have sort of worked their way into my bloodstream. And so that's quite an important part of my work. And I really enjoy storytelling through music. I almost exclusively write music for voices, not so much for instruments, and find it a bit harder to know how to approach purely instrumental writing. I can see that my time on my phone is almost up. I hope you enjoy what you hear this weekend, and do check out my stuff. Just look me up, Kerry Andrew, kerryandrew.net. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.